Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's DealerOn webinar, How to Kick Ass on Google When You're All Out of Bubblegum. My name is Eliana Raggio and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by DealerOn. For anyone who isn't familiar with DealerOn, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our amazing SEO, the absolute best customer service, and the highest converting website designs in the industry, including the brand new Chameleon responsive website platform. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that DealerOn is still the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. You heard me right. Does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Yeah, I didn't think so. So maybe you should check us out at our gorgeous brand new DealerOn website at DealerOn.com. And if we have a great show in store for you today, we're very pleased to have the Greg Gifford as our presenter today. Greg Gifford is the new Director of Search and Social at DealerOn. That's right. He's got over 15 years of online marketing and web design experience and has specialized in automotive SEO for the last 5 years, helping literally hundreds of auto dealers thrive while the industry has struggled during the recession. Greg speaks internationally at both automotive and SEO conferences. He teaches thousands of small business owners and marketers how to get their sites to show up higher in local search rankings. Greg also spends his spare time doing freelance web design and SEO for local businesses. He graduated from Southern Methodist University with a BA in cinema and communications and has an obscure movie quote for just about any situation. He is an international SEO speaker and currently serves as a member of the board of directors for the DFWSEM, an organization dedicated to promoting search engine marketing through best practices. His local search tips and tricks can easily be found online, and Greg can be reached at ggifford@dealeron.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to try to respond to you by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of this webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. Oh, and guess what? Our good friends at HookLogic. That's right, they're going to be sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. HookLogic is a showroom traffic driver. Not only do they identify the highest intent to buy customers from your website and third-party leads, HookLogic drives over 30% of them into your showroom. That's almost double the national show rate of 17%. And they have built the ultimate attribution engine, which tracks the customer through the lead, showroom visit, and purchase, and then delivers a cost per sale that is the best in the industry. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 e-gift card from HookLogic. You have to be on the live broadcast to win it, though, so stay tuned, and you could be the one walking away with this awesome prize today. And for more information about HookLogic, please visit hooklogic.com. Also, at the conclusion of this webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. So fill it out, because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today, we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all the completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And hey, do you tweet much? You know what? We hope you do. We'd love to see what you have to say about today's presentation, so please tag us in it. You can use hashtag DealerOnWebby. I'm at Eliana Raggio. You can also hit up Greg at Greg Gifford, too. We look forward to seeing what you're saying. So let's get started. Let's learn how to kick ass on Google when you're all out of bubblegum. Greg Gifford, I am so excited to webinar with you. You are amazing, and I'm already excited about this webinar. How are you? And welcome to DealerOn, by the way.
Thanks so much. I am wonderful, and I'm super pumped to kick off my run at DealerOn with this webinar.
And great title. And what I've learned from Greg Gifford is that he loves to do presentations that have a movie tie-in, and this is no exception. You guys are in for such a treat, and I love the title, and I know we have a lot to get to. So without further ado, Greg Gifford, take it away.
All right, so I am going to go hard and fast, and you might not even be able to keep up if you're trying to take notes. So down there in the bottom corner, you can see you can download these slides at bit.ly/kick-ass-local. So after the presentation, if there's anything you want to go back and refer to, definitely hit that link up and download the slides. And like Eliana mentioned, I am now the Director of Search and Social for DealerOn. And I just came on about 2 weeks ago, so I haven't had a chance to get on the blog yet, but keep an eye on the blog at DealerOn. I will be posting weekly on the blog with general marketing and SEO tips, and we'll also be doing a weekly video series. So definitely make sure you come out and check that out every week. For those of you that haven't seen me present before, I'm also a firm believer in the fact that bullet points kill kittens. So this would be a bullet point-free presentation. And for those of you that are fans of the 80s, you probably noticed that I had They Live there at the beginning with the reference to kicking ass, that being a lot of bubblegum. If you guys haven't seen this movie, definitely check it out. It is the best movie from the 80s. But as she mentioned, every time I do presentations, I do a movie theme, and today's theme is sci-fi movies. So we have 151 sci-fi movie references in today's presentation, including at least one sci-fi movie for every year in the last 50 years. So for those of you young bucks, yeah, right? It's crazy. So for all the young bucks out there that may not get some of the older references, and there are a couple of obscure ones in there too, I do have attribution down in the bottom corner if you're curious about what the movie is. So today we are here, and our one objective is to learn about real SEO, not the crazy stuff somebody's trying to sell you and just take your money. I'm going to show you guys real SEO, what's really going to work for your dealership, and what's really going to move the needle. So everybody's ready? Let's kick this off. I'm assuming you're all here because you need a hand with SEO.
Oh, jeez.
Are you spending all your time looking up at your competitors that are ranked higher than you? SEO is a really tough puzzle to crack. And really, it's a never-ending battle for supremacy. And unfortunately, when we're talking about SEO in your dealership website, you can't just float along. Because if you float along, you're going to blend into the background. And if you blend into the background, you're basically going to be invisible to potential customers. So through the webinar today, I'm going to give you guys some tips that are going to help you grab attention and stand out from your competitors. And I'm going to show you a little bit of insight to the code behind Google's algorithm so that you'll understand what gets sites to rank. So kick back and hold on to your seats because I'm about to turn your world upside down.
Audience, I swear it's going to get better than this. I swear.
So the most important thing we've got to talk about here at the beginning is the difference between traditional SEO and local SEO. So with traditional SEO, you really just try and get a website to rank for a search when somebody does a search for some keywords anywhere that search is conducted. Then there's a little subset of SEO called local SEO, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And then with local SEO, you're only trying to get a website to rank in a specific geographic area. And this is basically restaurants, doctors, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, and also car dealers. So if you think about it, if you're in Dallas, you don't want somebody to search for Toyota dealership and be in LA and pull you up because obviously they're not going to come buy from you. So Google understands this, and whenever we're talking about auto dealership related searches in Google, Google's automatically going to return local results. So it's important that as dealers, you understand the difference in local SEO and what extra signals go into it. And we also know from data that Google has put out that the average car buyer today is going to look basically at 10 websites before they become a lead. So they're going to go do their research. We know that there have been lots of points that say, oh, it's 25 websites, 24 websites. But that's with all the other research. With actual dealership websites, the buyers are going to look at 9.5 or 10 websites before they fill out a form or call or visit. So we know that your potential customers are going to be checking out several of your competitors before they end up buying from you. So if you're not visible, if you're not on the first or sometimes the second page of Google, you're not going to get those eyeballs on your website. And it's super important to get those eyeballs if you want to be selling cars. And guess what? It's time for our first poll question.
All right, first poll question is on the screen now. Audience, we would love it if you would get involved in our poll questions. It lets us know what's happening in your dealership and across the entire industry. So please get involved. It's on the screen now. It's your first of 3 poll questions today. So the question is, if DealerOn were to put on a regional conference in your area, how likely would you be to attend? Please select one of the following answers. I can't. I've got a haircut that day. Meh. I hope I spelled that right. Maybe. Sounds pretty awesome, or definitely wouldn't miss it. So if DealerOn were to put on a regional conference in your area, how likely would you be to attend? I can't, I got a haircut that day. Meh, maybe, sounds pretty awesome. Definitely won't miss it. And people were, by the way, Greg, people were commenting on your beginning jokes. Yes, they all agree. They were pretty bad, but they appreciated them. They thank you. All
Pretty
right.
bad, but pretty awesome.
Well, when one guy said, that's pretty bad, and then in the next, like the next second, he wrote back and he said, it's already my favorite webinar ever. So,
Awesome.
so thank you for that. All right, audience, you rock. Thank you so much. I love that you guys got involved already with the poll question. I'm sorry. Heather wrote in, bullet points do kill kittens. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to close this poll and share the results, mainly because I can't keep a straight face anymore. Okay, only 2% of today's audience said that they have a haircut already scheduled for that day. Another 2% proudly declare meh. 30% said maybe, and then we have an even 33% for sounds pretty awesome, and another equally awesome 33% of today's audience said definitely wouldn't miss it. Greg, does that help you out?
That's awesome.
All right,
Good
back
to know.
to you.
All right, so, wow, let's get this going. If there's anybody out there that still thinks they don't need SEO, I really hope that if you think that, you're actually watching the webinar because I'm going to prove that you do need it. Or this is also a really great way, if you're an internet manager and you got to go to the owner and prove that you need more of a budget for SEO, simple math is going to be your best friend. So I'm going to lay down a little bit of simple math, pretty simple equation that very easily illustrates why it's incredibly important for every dealership out there to be doing SEO. So let's say that you're in a town and you've got 5 franchise dealers and 15 used car dealers. So we'll keep a running total down there in the corner. So that gives us a total of 20 dealerships in town. Now, for the targeted key phrase that we're looking at, let's say we get the map pack. That's that list of 7 results that has dealership name, address, phone number, has the corresponding map pin that goes in the map and shows the review stars. So you've got those 7 spots plus 10 organic spots. So that gives us 17 possible spots for dealers to show up on page 1. But if we look at some of those organic spots, we see that directories are taking up 6 of those organic spots. So now we're taking 6 away from our 17. That gives us 11 possible spots on page 1 for dealerships. That means 9 people automatically right off the bat are going to be on page 2 without even taking SEO into account. But really, most of the time, we're talking about a metro area. So let's say, for the sake of the example, that there's 8 total towns in the metro. Okay, so the 15 plus 5, we're assuming that every town, to make the math easy, has those 20 dealerships. That gives us 160 dealerships in the metro area. But really, if you're in a metro, the city's going to be much bigger. That main city's probably going to be, let's say, 3 times bigger. So that gives us 200 dealerships in the metro area that are fighting for those really coveted page 1 spots for the metro area. That's 189 dealerships that won't be on page 1, right? And you've got 10 spots on the next page, so that's 179 people that won't be on page 1 or page 2. That means 179 dealerships that really aren't going to get any eyeballs or any leads. So you've got to do SEO if you want to be able to show up high enough for people to see your website. And then you've got to have an awesome user experience, because it doesn't do you any good to rank really high if your user experience sucks and people can't find what they're looking for, because they're going to bounce and they're going to go to your competitors instead. So you've got to have somebody on staff that's responsible for SEO. And no, that person cannot be your internet manager. You need a dedicated staff member that's going to be in charge of SEO and take care of all these things for you. And if you're not going to have that, then you need to hire an SEO provider to keep up with all this stuff for you. But when we're talking about providers, remember, you get what you pay for. SEO cannot be automated. It's a manual process. You've got to have butts and seats doing these things month in and month out, and that means SEO ain't cheap. So if you're talking to one of these mom and pop providers that are right down the street and they say they're going to do your SEO for $500 a month, you're probably not going to do anything except give them $500 a month. It's not going to do anything for your site. So there are a lot of shady SEO providers out there, both in the automotive industry and then outside the automotive industry. So for anyone out there that's going to look at a provider, or that maybe already has a provider they're not quite sure about, I'm going to give you several easy ways to spot the shady guys that are just out to take your money. So if any of these following tactics are used, by your current provider, then you need to run away and find somebody that's legit that's actually going to be able to help you. So first off, article publishing. This is where they'll take the same article and just go post it on 50 or 60 different websites to get you a bunch of links back to your website. This is a very outdated tactic. This doesn't work anymore. This can actually get you penalized now. So definitely run away from anyone using article publishing. And if your SEO provider's entire strategy is just to create model pages on your website, that's not SEO. That's creating a couple of pages for your site. That's not going to help you rank better. It's not going to bring you more traffic. Also, if they offer a la carte SEO, definitely bad. I've seen several automotive SEO providers that give you a menu of services and say, here's all of the services we provide for SEO, pick and choose which ones you want. Well, you're paying your SEO provider to be the expert and to do what's necessary to get you to rank higher. So it's kind of silly for that expert to give you a list and let you choose what you want off the list, because the whole reason you're hiring the provider is because they know more than you do. So again, this could be really bad. If any provider guarantees ranking, run far away. Now what these guys will do is they'll guarantee that, oh, we'll get you ranked, you'll have 500 page one rankings. Well, what they're doing is they're going to get you ranked for phrases that are so obscure that no human would ever type them into Google, which means there's not really any competition to get them ranked. So it's really easy to get those terms ranked. And maybe it makes you feel great that you've got 500 page one rankings, but your website traffic's never going to go up, and you're never going to get any more leads, and you're never going to sell any more cars. You can't guarantee ranking. It's impossible. So if people are doing that, you need to run away. Also, if they guarantee you a certain number of links per month, super, super bad. Google's made an update, and links aren't just a numbers game anymore. So if they're going to say, hey, we're just going to throw 50 links a month at you, that's probably not a good sign, because it's tough to get good relevant links. Also, if they set up your Google Analytics and then they don't give you access to your Google Analytics, that's an incredibly bad sign, because they're doing things to your site to increase your traffic, and if they're not letting you check your own analytics to see if your traffic's increasing, obviously that's a little shady. And then the flip side of the coin, I've seen dealers and talked to dealers that already had Google Analytics set up, and then when they had their SEO, their new SEO provider come in, the provider never asked for access to analytics. So how can you expect them to know that they're doing the right things if they're not checking to see if your traffic's going up? Also, it's incredibly important that your provider understands what local SEO is. If they're not doing the extra steps that are involved in local SEO, you're not putting your best foot forward. Another really big sign of a shady provider is you get a 10-page report every month, and all it is a list of how you rank for a bunch of different keywords. Again, sure, ranking is important, but that's not an end-all be-all. If they give you a report that says you rank #1 for 500 phrases, okay, great. Does that mean anything to your business? No. You don't know if you got any more leads out of that. You don't know if your traffic increased. Rankings are a side effect of what SEO does. The goal of SEO is to increase your traffic and increase your conversions and get you more leads. So that's what your report should show. Your SEO provider's report should concentrate on the increases in organic traffic and the increases in leads brought from that. So if somebody on your staff is doing SEO, it's incredibly important that you send them to SEO conferences to keep up with all the changes that Google makes. Now, Digital Dealer's great, and they've got several great SEO speakers there, including myself, but you need to be sending your staff member to an SEO conference like PubCon or SMX or SES or something like that, that is 2 or 3 days of intense breakout sessions all related to SEO or to PPC or to social media. Digital Dealer's great, but they're only going to have a few sessions. You need 2 or 3 days of sessions to keep up with the latest and greatest tactics. And if instead you're using a provider, ask your provider which conferences they're going to. Because I'll tell you right now, there are a lot of providers, especially providers in the automotive industry, that don't go to these SEO conferences, and they don't stay up to date on what current tactics actually work. And it's incredibly important that either you or your provider keep up to date with all the changes that Google makes, because these changes that Google makes can drastically change the strategies that you're using on your website. For example, a couple of years ago, Google rolled out the Panda update. Panda targeted bad content. So if you had these pages that just had 50 or 60 cities separated by commas, and that's how you were trying to rank, Google's now not going to let that work. Or if you have a page that only has 1 or 2 sentences on it, Google wants you to rank because you've got worthwhile content. So Panda was an update that targeted sites that had bad content and also ended up promoting sites that had good content. So this completely changed the strategy for writing content on your site. Then slightly after that, we had the Penguin update, and Penguin targeted bad links or link manipulation, because before Penguin, it was a lot more of a numbers game. Whoever had the most links was going to win. But Google very quickly realized that that was easy to gain. You could cheat the system. So now Google wants those links from other websites to be links that you earn because you've got good content. And those links need to be coming from relevant websites. So again, completely changes the strategy of where you're going to try to get your links from. Then Google rolled out the Hummingbird update. Now this one wasn't a penalty-based update, but this was basically Google taking the entire engine out of the algorithm and putting in a new engine. Before Hummingbird, Google was doing keyword-to-keyword matching. After Hummingbird, Google's understanding the semantics. So a great example of this is if you use Google Now on an Android phone. You can say, Google, where's the Statue of Liberty? And Google will tell you that it's in New York. Then you can simply say, how tall is it? And it will tell you how tall the Statue of Liberty is, because now Google understands the meaning behind the language and that the word it refers back to your original question about the Statue of Liberty. So this also changes the way you write content, because Google's now understanding that car dealer and car dealership are in fact the same concept. So you don't have to have all of these multiple pages with different variations of keywords on them. Now you need to have variations of keywords on the same page, and your content needs to be much more conversational. Again, a big change in how you're writing content on your site. Then last summer in July, Google hit us with the Pigeon update, which hopefully you've all heard of. Pigeon was a change in how Google calculates local search results. And this one I'm going to dig into a little bit more because it really had an effect on how auto dealerships were showing up in Google. So first of all, the search radius was smaller. So with that map pack and those 7 results, Google would draw a circle, and the results that it served up were within that circle. And the circle is now about 60% the size that it was before this update. So you have less reach than you had before this update. Also, we see that for different queries, there's now a different radius. In the past, you typically had the same radius if you were in a city. Now, those radius, the radius for different queries can be different when you're talking about the same website. So look at this. If you search for dealer Washington, D.C., you see that top map. And then if you search used cars Washington, D.C., you see that it's a much smaller radius. The map is much more zoomed in. So again, you've got to change your strategy. You've got to understand on the different pages of your website what sort of potential reach you might have based on what those pages are targeting for their keywords. And also, we're seeing fewer instances of those 7 packs, and now we're seeing a lot more 3 packs or even 1 packs. Another big result is that Pigeon very heavily favors those directory sites, which is why when we were doing the math equation a few minutes ago, we had to remove those 6 or 7 sites, because you'll see a lot of Auto Trader, Car Gurus, Cars.com directory sites in the local search results now. And what's really crazy about this Pigeon update is that results are still fluctuating. Typically, we see Google roll out an update, and within a few days, things settle back down with the new system. But with Pigeon, Google is still testing. Google is still changing things. So you could check your local rankings 3 or 4 times a day, and they'll be different every time you check, because Google's testing different versions of this algorithm out in the wild. And then in December, right at the end of the year, Google updated the Google My Business quality guidelines. Now, Google My Business is what used to be called Google Places, and they roll out their quality guideline list every year that says this is what you are and aren't allowed to do on your Google My Business or Google Places page. So one crazy thing is, in April of last year, Google said you could add a single descriptive word to the end of the business name in your Google Places page, and that would help you show up in searches. And Google very heavily suggested that everyone go do this. Then in December, they do a complete 180 and say, actually, you know what, you can't have that descriptor on your business name anymore, and we're going to start to penalize people that do it. So Google tells you one thing, and then 6 or 7 months later says, don't do that thing we just told you to do, or you're going to get hurt. Another one, when Google switched from the Google Places to Google My Business dashboard, you went from 5 categories to 10 categories. And Google said, hey, pick all the categories that you can, because that'll help you show up in more searches. And then in December, Google comes back and says, actually, no, you should only pick the most specific categories that apply to your business. So if you're a Toyota dealer, you shouldn't say Toyota dealer and car dealer. You should only say Toyota dealer. So again, a complete 180 on the strategies that you used to be doing. We also see Google saying that if you have different departments with different pages, they have to have unique categories. So I've seen a lot of dealerships that will have one Google Places listing for the sales side and one Google Places listing for the service side. That way your reviews are isolated and they're separate, and you have multiple listings. You can show up for multiple searches. And both listings would say Toyota dealer and automotive repair and automotive service. Well, now Google doesn't want there to be overlap between the categories because they're separate departments. Obviously, you can see Google's changing all the time, and it's really important that we understand, like I mentioned, why local SEO is different and what's different about it, because it requires additional signals. So with all of these changes and with trying to understand what local SEO is, how the heck are you supposed to know what to do? Well, there's an SEO tool company called Moz. You may have heard of it before. A lot of dealers know about it already. And every year, Moz does a study, and they take the top 40 experts all across the world in local search. And they send them this huge, long questionnaire, and then they aggregate all of the answers, and they release their yearly local search ranking factor study. So nobody knows exactly what goes into Google's algorithm, but when you have these top worldwide experts that are doing local search day in and day out, these people have done a lot of testing, and these people know on a daily basis what they can do that's going to help a site to rank higher. So then you can aggregate all the answers and get a pretty good guideline of what's going to work. So you get this nice pie chart every year that gets updated at the end of every summer, and this is last year's study. And so for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to go through each of these areas of influence for your website from order of the most important down to the least important, and show you exactly which signals matter on each area of your site or off of your site, and show you how to influence those signals so that you guys will be able to get your dealerships to rank better. So the most important signal is on-site signals, and that's 21% of the pie, by far the most important signal for local search rankings. And honestly, most auto dealers really suck at on-site optimization. We see all the time, dealers will say, my website's awesome, my homepage is so great, but there's no content there. We'll see something like this, and they think it's super pretty and super nice and awesome for customers, but the problem is there's no live text on this page except for the phone numbers and the menu and the text that's in the footer. That's not good for your customers. Your customers, remember, are shopping around and looking at multiple dealerships. They need to read about what makes you unique and why you're different, and plus you need that live text there for Google to be able to index to understand why your website should rank higher than your competitors. We also see a lot of cases where dealers will only have a couple of sentences on a page, which obviously makes them not unique. So you'll see something like this: hey, we've got a lot of extended warranty options. Call us and find out more. Okay, that's not going to work, guys. People are on your website because they want to read about what your dealership has to offer. They're not going to say, oh, they sell warranties, let me call them and find out. No, they want to read the information on your site. Then this is another pretty big hot button issue in the industry right now: default page text. Now, the dealer.coms, the Cobalts, these guys that are rolling out thousands and thousands of websites, it's not feasible for them to write unique page text for all the pages on the site. So it's up to dealers to go in and write unique text. But unfortunately, a lot of times we don't see that that happens. So great example here. I took that first sentence there off of a warranty page and I highlighted it. Then I went and searched in Google inside of double quotes so that it's only going to return exact matches for that sentence. And lo and behold, 5,540 results. So that's 5,540 plus websites that had that exact same text on it. Now, Google's going to penalize you if you've got duplicate content. Google wants to see that you're unique. If you want to rank, you've got to have unique content. So you've got to make sure that you don't have duplicate content on your site. Also, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen spamtastic lists of either cities or models because dealers think that this is going to get them to rank. So great example right there on the top. You know, they're listing out South San Francisco, San Mateo, Palo Alto, Redwood City, Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Belmont, San Carlos, Menlo Park, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you're not going to rank in all those cities just because you listed 20 cities on your homepage separated by a bunch of comments. And then the next one down there, this one came from a used car dealer, and I love this example because he's listing out all these makes and models. And in that list, he's got Lincoln MKX and Lincoln MKS. And the guy didn't even have any Lincolns in his inventory. So what's the point of putting that on the front page anyway? But even further, just like with the cities, you're not going to rank for those makes and models because you've got them separated in a comma list on your homepage. You're going to rank for them because you've got them in your inventory. Or if you're a new car dealer, you might have a model research page, and that could rank. but you're not going to show up just because you've got it in a list on your homepage. That stuff doesn't work. And meta keywords. Dealers love to spam the heck out of their meta keywords, but Google and the other search engines completely ignore the meta keywords. They haven't worked in over 5 years. So if we see a site that has a bunch of meta keywords in it like this, okay, this is not going to help you rank. This does nothing for you. Instead of spending time putting effort into putting meta keywords on all your pages, put that effort and time into creating a really kick-ass, awesome user experience with great content on your site. And please stop spamming your title tags. We see freaking awful title tags all the time with dealers. So I'm on a Mac, and I have ridiculously huge monitors with ridiculous resolution. And even still, this dealership's title tag doesn't fit across the top of the screen. Now, a title tag has a limit of space of about 500 characters or 500 pixels in width, which gives you a total of maybe 50, 60 characters. Depends on the font, depends on all that, but really 500 characters of width, or 500 pixels of width, sorry. Anything beyond that, Google's gonna cut it off, or there's a lot of research that shows that anything beyond about 60, Google's just gonna change your title tag anyway. And your title tag, arguably the most important SEO element on the page, so don't waste it by throwing in a bunch of junk like this guy. All of these things are tricks that are outdated where you're just trying to fool Google into ranking you. And you've got to stop trying to fool the nerds at Google. These things don't work. These guys are smarter than the rest of the planet combined. So stop using tricks where you're trying to fool Google and do legitimate stuff. And for those of you that are fans of 80s movies, yes, that is Iron Man that had a bra on his head. Right. So when we're talking about these on-site signals, it's really important that while you're creating this awesome user experience and you're doing all of these things, you've also got to go above and beyond, because again, we're talking about local SEO. So there's some extra things you need to do beyond what you would traditionally do to push through those local relevancy signals. So these are the elements that you need to optimize for local when you're on your website. Most importantly, you need to make sure that you've got city and state in the title tag of every page. Also, incredibly important that you have city and state in the H1 heading on your page too. Don't just have the H1 heading at the top of the page say warranty or about us. Get some good text in there and make sure you include city and state. And for those of you that can find it, this movie Spaceship is the most craptastically awesome movie ever made for anything sci-fi. So go try to find it if you can. It's really awesome. Super important to have city and state in your content. I talk to dealers all the time that say that they're so optimized, they don't understand what's going on, and then you look in the actual text content of their site and they never mention where they're actually located. So I'm not talking about one of those big lists. I'm just talking about mentioning the city and state where your dealership's located. Incredibly important to put it in the alt text on your images. Now, every image on your site should have alt text anyway. This is super important for usability. It's also important because Google can't see what's in the photos. So if you have alt text on the images in that embed code, Google understands that that picture is related to the content on the page. So it's a great place to throw in some local information to help boost local relevancy. And in places where you can, if you're on a platform that allows you to change the URL to the custom pages on your site, definitely include city and state in your URL. This is a great way to really push some local relevancy through, but a lot of dealerships don't ever change the default URLs of their pages. Now, the final spot that you want to try to push that city and state information is the meta description. Now, the meta description is code that's behind the scenes. It doesn't show up on your page. But if you show up in a Google search result, the meta description is those couple of sentences in gray that show up underneath your link that explain what your page is about. Now, this does not play into the ranking algorithm. So don't think that just going and putting this in is going to make you rank higher. But what it does do is help get more clicks to your website. Because if somebody searches for Toyota dealer Dallas and you have Toyota dealer and Dallas in your meta description, those words are going to get bolded underneath your link, which helps them stand out, which pushes more relevancy to that search and makes it more likely that somebody's going to click through. It's also incredibly important that you have an embedded Google map both on your home page and your Contact Us page. Now, when you embed this Google map, you need to be sure that you're embedding it from your Google My Business or Google Places page, not just putting your address into Google Maps. Because if you just drop your address in the map, then you just get a map pin and it has the name of the address next to the map pin. But if you do it from your Google My Business page, you're going to go in and see the name of the dealership next to the pin. You have the dealership name up in the info box, and you have the aggregate star rating. So it's a better signal both to Google and to potential customers. Also incredibly important that you have NAP on every page and that the NAP is marked up with schema. Now, there's probably somebody out there saying, wait a minute, what's this acronym thing? What's NAP? Well, NAP is what we in the industry call name, address, and phone number. And for those of you big movie fans out there, I actually have this from Ghostbusters tattooed on my shoulder. And then there's probably a few people out there saying, wait a minute, but you said it has to be marked up with schema. What the heck is schema? Well, schema is code that the search engines got together and decided that they would all agree upon, and schema is used to organize the information on your page. So this name, address, phone number, hours of operation right here is what humans would see when they look at your website. But if you've got that marked up with schema, this is what the code looks like behind the scenes. So for hours, you might actually write out Monday through Friday, or just M-F or Mon-Fry like this. You don't want Google to have to spend any extra amount of time that it's allocated to crawling your website to parsing that information and figuring out what your hours are. So if you notice right above the hours in the orange text there, we're serving up the hours in the format that Google requests that you serve it up. So it doesn't matter what humans see. You're telling Google, hey, these are my hours. And notice, most important of all, at the very top where you're saying, hey, this is about to be a bunch of schema information, you're telling Google right off the bat that you're an automotive dealer. So Google doesn't have to crawl your website and figure out what you're doing. Google knows right off the bat, hey, this is an automotive dealer. Super, super important to do this. Google never tells you anything that you should do. Google always tells you what not to do. So in a situation like this where Google says, hey, you should do this, you guys should darn well be doing it. Another really incredibly important signal is to have a local area code phone number on your site. I'm going to let that sink in for a second because a lot of you guys aren't doing that. Because yes, that means you shouldn't have an 800 number or a call tracking number on your site. Now I could go off for another hour and a half about call tracking numbers and why they're bad for SEO and the right way to do it. If you guys are doing call tracking, I can guarantee you, you would rank better if you get rid of the 800 numbers, the call tracking numbers. So if you've got questions, please get with me and I can talk to you about it and explain how it works. Basically, you need a call tracking number that you own so that if you leave your call tracking provider, that you keep that number, and also it should be a local area code phone number. So moving on. You need to make sure, besides doing all of that, that you've got really awesome, relevant content and that that content is on every page of your site. So make sure you're writing awesome vehicle descriptions for your vehicles. Make sure you've got awesome content on all your custom pages. And remember, when you're creating this content, don't think about tricks. Think about people. So when you're putting something on your site, if you have the mindset of, I'm putting this on my site because it'll make me rank better in Google, you're doing it wrong. You need to have the mindset of, I'm putting this on my site because it's going to improve my user experience and make it better for my potential customers. It's all about the people, the people. So hopefully there's somebody out there that's seen Soylent Green and gets that joke. Also, super important that you have a blog. Blogs are no longer a luxury. They're absolutely a necessity because they allow you to continually push out fresh content to get that freshness signal sent out to Google, and it also allows you to write a lot of interesting information that customers would find useful, and it allows you to write a lot of local information that helps boost local relevancy. So if you need help coming up with ideas for local blog content, you can head over to bit.ly/local-content-ideas. That's an article that I wrote on Search Engine Land that shares a lot of awesome tips and tricks for coming up with local blog content ideas. And time for another poll question.
Why, yes it is, audience. I know. People are writing in, Greg, just so you know, just astounded at the level that this presentation has taken on. I mean, the entertainment value is phenomenal, but your information that you're putting out is just stupendous. So thank you so much. You take a well-deserved...
Well, and we're only on the first piece of the pie. I've got several pie slices to go through.
Oh,
so everybody's in store for a lot more awesome info.
A lot more awesomeness. Okay, so let's get rolling. This is your second of 3 poll questions. We'd love it if you'd very quickly get your votes in. If DealerOn were to put on a regional conference, which city would you prefer? We got 5 great cities for you to choose from: Dallas, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, or Miami. So which regional city would you prefer for a conference? Dallas, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, or Miami? And audience, I also want to let you know, thank you so much for your questions. Greg, we're in for a very robust Q&A session. I already have a ton of questions in the queue, so I'm really looking forward to it. If you haven't gotten in your question yet for Greg Gifford, there's no reason to wait. Send it in as soon as you think of a question, all right? We'll be getting to that Q&A session after his wonderful presentation, all right? Let's give you a couple more seconds to get your votes in. Which DealerOn regional conference city would you prefer? Dallas, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, or Miami? Thank you so much for your votes, audience. You guys rock. I'm going to close this poll, and let's share the results. All right. Well, Greg, your
Go for
leader,
Dallas. Yes.
your leader is Dallas. 29% of today's audience says Dallas. 16% said our capital, Washington, D.C. Only 20% said Los Angeles. 22% said the windy city of Chicago. And 13%, only 13% goes to Miami. Oh, I love me some Miami. But yep,
I was
looks
kind
like
of hoping Miami would do better,
me
honestly.
too. But you know what? Dallas is right around the corner from you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I was hoping to get a nice little trip down to the beach, so
I'm with you,
I don't
babe.
get that if it's in Dallas.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, audience, thank you so much. We got one more poll question coming your way in just a little bit. All right, please take it away, Greg.
All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about link signals. Link signals account for 18.3% of the local search ranking factors. This is the second biggest piece of the pie. And for some reason, there we go. Now, most dealers don't have that many links. So we'll talk to a lot of dealers, and while they might work really hard on their content, they don't do much with links, so they don't have that many, which is great for all of you that are going to start doing SEO after you listen to this presentation, because just a few pretty decent links can really boost you up in the search results. But remember, after that Penguin update that Google made, the source and subject matter of the linking site are incredibly important. I had a dealer, a Ford dealer in Virginia several years ago, call us up, and they said, you know what, we don't get it. They were using, I don't want to name names, but it was a very major provider in the automotive SEO space. And they said, you know, we used to be #1 for everything, and now we just don't show up for anything. The only way you can find us on Google is if you search our exact dealership name. So we go and we look, and most dealerships will have, you know, 300, 400, 500, maybe 600 links. This guy had about 6,500 links, and 6,000 of them were from Russian porn sites. So the guy that was doing his SEO just went out and bought a bunch of links, and they ended up being all from Russian sex sites. Obviously, after the Penguin update, that's going to hurt you, and this guy was under a Penguin penalty. Took us about 6 months to be able to get rid of enough of those links for Google to put them back into the index and start showing up again. So it's really important that you're getting links from good sites. Now, because of this Penguin update, traditional SEO people are going to tell you, when you're building links or going after links, you only want to get links from websites that have a lot of authority, that are going to carry that authority over to your website. But I've got a pro tip for you for local SEO. You don't want to ignore local sites that may have low authority. I love the crappy little church websites and the crappy little Little League websites, because these sites may not have a ton of authority. There might not be a ton of traffic. They may be kind of ugly, but these hyper-local websites that are only going to be dealing with that specific neighborhood or area, if you get links from these local sites, that really pushes through a lot of local relevancy and helps you rank better in these local searches. So this is a really great way to distinguish yourself from your competitors that have a provider or somebody internal that's just doing regular SEO. If you're going to go the extra mile and do the local SEO and get these local links along with your other local signals, that really helps you do better. So if you're wanting to work on links, I suggest using Open Site Explorer. Now, there's another tool called Majestic that's great. There's a tool called Ahrefs that's awesome. But we like to use Open Site Explorer. That's a Moz tool. These are the guys that do that local search ranking factor study. And you go in, and all you have to do is drop in a URL of your website, and it's going to spit out a list of all the sites that are linking to you. So you can get a list of all the inbound links to your website. Now, those of you that are thinking, wait a minute, you only have to put in a URL. Well, heck, doesn't that mean I can check my competitors? And yes, you can. You just have to go drop in their URL, and you can get a list of links that they have. So if you're at the bottom of page 1 and you've got 7 or 8 dealers that are ranking higher than you, go pull all the links that those guys have and then compare them to the links that you have And you can find opportunities for links that are going to be really easy to get because these other websites are already linking to other car dealers. And so then you can find these opportunities and then reach out to these sites and go get these links. It's a really great way to find some low-hanging fruit. Also, take advantage of relationships that you already have. That says take advantages. It should be take advantage. Sorry, I can't type. Think about the things that the relationships you've already built. You're involved with your community. You may play golf with the mayor, or you've got a good friend that's on city council or that owns another big business in town that goes to your church or whatnot. Take advantage of these relationships and figure out how you can work those relationships and get some good links. And also, take advantage of things that you're already doing. You're probably already doing sponsorships for local 5Ks or golf tournaments or things like this, or involved in community service. Most dealerships do these things, but they don't go the extra mile and think about, hey, I can get a link out of this. And getting a link from a local charity site is a really powerful link. But remember, Google wants your links to be editorial. So if you can control the link or the placement of the link or what the text is on the link, Google doesn't really want that link to count. Google wants you to get links because you've got worthwhile content that the other site thinks that their visitors would benefit from seeing. So when you're thinking about links, remember, you're not building links. You should be earning links because your website is so awesome and has such great content. So moving on to the next piece of the pie, citation signals, 15.5%, the number 3 most important part of the pie. Citations are mentions of your NAP, your name, address, phone number, on other websites. So typically this is directory listings, but this can also be simpler citations where it's just a blog post or another website that in some sort of long form mentions your name, address, and phone number. And while they used to be a lot more powerful, they're the number 3 part of the ranking signal. So they're still a really powerful signal. But most auto dealers and most SEO providers don't do anything with citations because citations are specifically a part of local SEO, and the guys that are doing traditional aren't going to do anything with them. And it's also important to note that citations can exist online even if you didn't put them out there. And that's one of the reasons that call tracking can be so bad for SEO, because if you have all these different numbers, even if they're just dynamically inserted on your site, people might write that down or put it in a blog post, and you can have all these different numbers bleed out into the internet. But with citations, they can really be a nice boost to how you're ranking. So if you're stuck at the bottom of the map pack, if you can clean up some of the misinformation that's out there or go get a couple of more powerful citations, citations can really help get you over the hump. What hump? Hopefully there's some young Frankenstein people out there that get that. That's the greatest movie ever made in the history of the world. I actually have a young Frankenstein tattoo also.
No, you don't.
I do. So citations all play together like this. This is an illustration of the local search ecosystem. So you can see all of the big, thick lines. Those are the major citation sources, the major information providers that feed down into the second level providers. Then you can see the kind of center lines all feed around amongst themselves, and then the really thin lines all feed in on the third level, and everything compares back and forth, but then looks down into your Google Plus Local, Google Places, Google My Business. So it's important you can see that your information is correct in all these locations, because otherwise it's going to get really messy very quickly. And David Mim is the name of the guy that runs the local search ranking factor study that I keep referring to, and he has a really great quote. Your business needs to be where Google expects you to be. So remember, Google's just really a lot of complicated math that looks at signals on your site and off your site. So looking at the citation signals, if Google expects that a local business in Dallas, Texas would be listed on, say, 50 specific citation websites, and you have a competitor that is on all 50 and you're only on 35 of them, that could be part of the reason that that guy's ranking higher than you. When you want to go work on these citations and check out what's going on, a great tool to start with is Moz Local. And again, I keep referencing Moz, but they've got a lot of really awesome tools. You can get to this tool by going to moz.com/local/search. Now, this tool is free. There is a Moz Local submission service where you can pay money to push information out to some of the major aggregators, but this check tool, part of it is free, and it's going to check the 15 most important citation sources for a website. So all you have to do is go in and put the name of your dealership and your zip code, and it's going to spit out a list. So there on the left, you can see I've got multiple options there for City Toyota. Ideally, you only want to see a single listing because you want your information to be consistent everywhere. So the fact that we see multiple listings for City Toyota, that's a bad sign. You see multiple phone numbers. You see that, some of them are City Toyota, some of them are City Toyota Scion, some are City Toyota Rent-A-Car, all with the same address but with multiple phone numbers. But once you click on any one of those listings, you get the graph that's on the right side. And that's going to show you your score for each of the citation sources. Now, notice on this one, you see that Yelp and Info Group they don't have anything there. It's got the little exclamation point. Sometimes the tool has trouble reaching those sites and it just won't show anything. But the ones that are gray, that shows that you don't exist on that site. The ones that are green, you exist on that site. And then if you've got yellow underneath, that means that you've got a duplicate listing on that site. If you've got red underneath, that means that you're on the site, but that listing has inconsistent information. Now, the really cool thing about this is if you need to go fix that duplicate or inconsistent, or even if you want to go to something like Foursquare, that first one there that's only got a 24% score, you can click on the bar and it will jump you directly to your listing on that site, so you don't have to figure out how to get there. And again, those of you that are forward thinking are saying, well, wait, if I just have to put in the name of the dealership and the zip code, couldn't I check my competitors? And yes, you can. So again, if you think that this could be part of the reason you're not ranking, compare yourself to your competitors. But remember, this only checks 15 sources. So when you really want to go in and clean something up or get advanced and get more citations than you already have, you want to use a tool called Whitespark. And so Whitespark is whitespark.ca/local-citation-finder. Now, this is a paid tool, so this will cost you $20 a month, but it's the best $20 a month you'll ever spend. You can go in and drop in your phone number, and this is going to show you every citation you have. So this will show every possible citation that you have that includes that phone number. You can also go in and drop in keywords and say, I'm a Toyota dealer, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and it will spit out a list of possible citations that you can get based on those keywords. And then again, because you're just running phone numbers, you can go check your competitors' citations. And then within their tool, once you've run yourself and your competitors, you can run a comparison report and get a very easy to read graphical report that shows where your shortcomings are based on what your competitors are beating you with. So then again, you can find opportunities to go get these citations and then go get them. And just like Highlander, there could be only one correct version of your name, address, phone number out there. Your citations need to be 100% consistent, character for character. That means your business name needs to be exactly the same, your address needs to be exactly the same, and your phone number needs to be exactly the same everywhere it appears online. That's why call tracking is really bad. If you're using a bank of 50 numbers, then your phone numbers aren't going to match, and that's going to hurt you. Because if you have missing or incorrect or incomplete information, that sends a bad signal to Google. Now here's my favorite example, and God bless this guy. He was so awesome, super crazy Cajun dude, had the best commercials ever. He has since retired and shut the dealership down or sold it, I don't know which, but he's outside in New Orleans. Guy called us up several years ago and said, hey, I'm not showing up in Google. I don't understand. I've got tons of great advertising. Everybody knows who I am, but I don't show up in Google. Well, the top one there in white is the correct spelling of his dealership name. No idea why he decided to opt for the capital apostrophe in, but that's what he did. Now, the other ones there in orange are the number of ways that he misspelled his own dealership's name on his own website. And obviously, his citations were going to be all over the board too. So we said, you know what, this is a great experiment for us. Let's touch nothing this first month except his citations. Let's clean it up so that his business name is consistent everywhere that it appears online. So that's all we did the first month. And within 30 days, the guy went from not ranking at all in Google to being the #2 organic result and the #1 map pack result.
Huh.
Just from fixing his citations.
Wow.
So if your dealership has ever outgrown your location or moved location, or if you've ever changed phone numbers, the #1 priority you have after leaving this webinar is to go out and use Whitespark and Moz Local to clean up that citation data. You've got to get your stuff clean. It will be a huge difference to how you're ranking in Google. So like I said, go out, grab Whitespark for the $20, go fix all the errors that you have, and that's going to help you rank better. And it's time for our final poll question.
You know it's a good webinar when even I'm taking notes. I'm just putting that out there for you people, all right? Yes, your third and final poll question is on the screen now. Please vote. We want to know if DealerOn were to put on a regional conference, Which topic would you most like to learn about? Please select one of the following answers: websites and conversion rates, SEO, PPC or pay-per-click, social media, or in-store processes. Once we get a majority of those votes in, we're going to close the poll and share the results. Again, if DealerOn were to put on a regional conference, which topic would you most like to learn about? Now, that's not to say we wouldn't cover any of the other topics, but we want to know what your number one topic that you would want to hear about from DealerOn would be. So would it be about websites and conversion rates, SEO, pay-per-click, social media, or in-store processes? And audience, you are just being particularly awesome today. And Melissa, alas, no, you cannot have them all probably. Maybe you can have them all, I don't know. Yes, Adam says also all of the above. I understand. And that's not to say we wouldn't have a little bit of each, but we would like to know where to focus our main concerns on, and love to know your answer on that. So I'll tell you what, let's close this poll and share the results, because I know Greg is chomping at the bit to find out this one. All right, Greg, here you go. 31% of today's... 31% of today's audience said it's websites and conversion rates that really turn them on. Aha, but the majority, 37% of today's audience, said SEO is where it's at. Now, only 6% said pay-per-click or PPC campaigns. 19% said social media, and the remaining 7% said in-store processes is what they would like to learn about. Greg, does that help you out?
That's awesome.
Of course, keep in mind that this is an audience who is interested in SEO and showed up to an SEO webinar. Thank you, audience. You guys are awesome.
Crazy here. Sorry about that, guys. Something happened with that poll and it jumped the slide forward. So, going to speed up a little bit here because I don't want to go too far over, because I know we've got a lot of great questions coming in. So, Google My Business, formerly Google Places, almost 15% of the local search ranking factor, is the next biggest piece of the pie that we're going to talk about. Now, the most important thing you could do if you have not done it yet is to claim your location on Google My Business or Google Places. In the past, you could get a phone call. Nowadays, they're kind of forcing you to do the postcard verification where you get the pin mailed to you and you have to come back and enter it. But if you're having problems claiming your listing, or if perhaps an old internet manager claimed your listing and now they've left and you don't have access anymore, phone support is an awesome way to either get your listing claimed or get back into your listing. So if you go to bit.ly/phone support, that will jump you right to the correct form in Google. Also, I should have put the link in here, but I recently wrote an article on Search Engine Land that walks through step-by-step the process to be able to reach phone support. Now, keep in mind, phone support used to be US-based, but they have recently outsourced it to India. So phone support is between like 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. Central Time. You don't want to call super early. They've got it open that early because they're dealing with everybody in Europe. You want to try to call, really the best time is between like noon and 3 o'clock Central Time. That's when you're pretty guaranteed to get the US-based support. Now, the reason you want US-based support is because they're willing to skip the script. They know what they're doing, and if you say, hey, this is what I need, they'll help you. If you get the outsourced support in India, they're still helpful. It's just going to take you longer because you're going to have them go through the script. So that's a little bit of an insider tip. Now, here's the craziest stat you guys are ever going to have seen before related to SEO.
Lay it on me.
Consumers are 38% more likely to visit your business and 29% more likely to buy from you if you've got a complete listing on Google My Business or Google Places. And really, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because a lot of times if you're ranking well in local searches, you're going to be showing up in that map pack. So a lot of times the first thing that anybody's going to see related to your dealership is going to be your Google My Business or Google Places listing. So if you've got a really awesome listing, that's going to optimize your chances of getting people to, click through to your website or make a phone call. So when you're talking about your listing, these are a couple of important things you need to be sure you're doing. Back when we had Google Places, we had a character limit of 200 characters. On Google My Business, there is no character limit, so you can write a super awesome long description. You can also format your text with bold and italics, and you can include links in your description. Now, a lot of dealers have not updated these descriptions because they don't realize that you're able to go put something kick-ass in there. So this is a really awesome way that's very easy to take 5 minutes and go do that will help you stand out from your competitors. Also, absolutely vital that you have a local area code phone number on your Google My Business or Google Places listing. Again, lots of dealers love the call tracking and they're going to use an 800 number there, but one of the most important things that Google looks at is that you have a local area code phone number to prove that you're a locally relevant business. So it's super important that you guys have that local area code number as the primary phone number on your Google My Business listing. Also, as we mentioned earlier, very important that you're choosing the right categories for your business. Please be sure that you're also uploading a lot of photos and videos. You've got to make sure that you're trying to optimize the user experience, and you've got to make sure that you're uploading photos to the account to help show this. I was actually consulting with a dealer yesterday that was wondering why they had the street view showing in their Google Knowledge box. When you search the dealership name, you've got the box over in the right column that shows, you know, the map listing and top line information about the dealership, and it shows the street view from Google's little camera car, but it was their old dealership location. And we went and looked at their Google My Business listing, and they haven't ever uploaded any photos to their listing. And since the car hadn't driven by to update and show a new map or show new photos for the location, that's why you were still seeing the old photos. But if they were to upload some photos of their dealership, those would overwrite, and now you'd see the correct photos. So you've got to make sure you've got those photos in there. Also important to connect your YouTube account so that you've got videos attached to it. And please, make sure that you've got an awesome cover image and a good user image in there too. There's nothing worse than landing on a dealership's Google My Business page and seeing the default little 3 or 4 color swoosh that Google has for the default image there. That does not do well for your dealership. Get some branding in there. Have an awesome, awesome photo. Moving on, review signals, almost 10% of local search ranking factors. 88% of people now trust an online review from a stranger as much as a review from someone that they know. So think about that. People will trust something that they read online from an absolute stranger that they don't know from Adam in equal amount to someone that they're related to. And 4 out of 5 people will decide not to buy from your dealership if your dealership has bad reviews online. And you can't fake good reviews because you can't fake caring about your customers. I've turned down dealerships that wanted to pay me money to do their SEO because I could tell from looking at their reviews that they were shady mofos. And if you're a shady mofo, no amount of SEO in the world is going to help you get good reviews. You've got to care about your customers if you want to get good reviews. And then you need to remove roadblocks and make it easy for people to leave reviews, and then ask those people to leave you reviews. But keep in mind, you can't ask for reviews on Yelp because it's against Yelp's terms of service to ask people to leave you a review. But also, you can't ignore Yelp because if somebody searches for you on an iPhone, the stars that show up on Apple Maps are powered by Yelp. So if you have, like this guy, 155 reviews and a 4-star rating on Google, that's awesome. Good for you. What if somebody sees that and then they decide they want to come in for service or come in to buy a car, and they put you into their phone to look up directions and they see that you've got a 2-star rating on Yelp? How many customers are you going to lose? So here's a killer strategy that's going to help you get more good reviews.
I'm ready.
You want to set up a reviews page on your website. So whatever your dealership's domain is, domain.com/reviews or reviews.html, depending on your platform. Set up that page, and then on that page have the text that says, hey, thanks for doing business with us. We'd love to know how we did. Please click here to leave us a review on Google. And then right under that, have a little note that says, by the way, you've got to have a Google account. You've got to be logged in. You let people know all the potential roadblocks before they get there. And you're giving them a link directly to your listing, so you don't have to expect that they can go figure out how to find you on Google. And then you want to hand out a postcard. Now, we like to hand out branded postcards so it matches the dealership rating, and you do that at the end of the process. So on the service side of things, when they're done and they're paying, you give them a card. On the sales side of things, when you're doing the final handshake and they're about to jump in and drive off the lot, you give them the card and say, we'd love to know how we did today. Please leave us a review. And that card points them to that domain.com/reviews page. And then you can follow up with an email or two. And that email can also point to the /reviews page. But you've got to be careful not to automate your emails because you're going to look really bad if you have somebody that goes and leaves you a review, and then a week later you say, hey, thanks for leaving us a review, or thanks for doing business with us. Could you go to this link and leave us a review? Because then obviously that's automated and it doesn't make you look good. Now remember, it's really important that you concentrate on Google reviews. Now, DealerRater is great, but DealerRater doesn't help you rank better in Google. So all those reviews that you push over to DealerRater are not going to help you rank better in Google, and nobody's going to see them because customers don't go look at reviews on DealerRater. The first thing they see when they're looking for reviews is reviews on Google. Plus, those Google reviews actually help you rank better. The more reviews you get, the better you're going to rank. And if you are just starting off pushing stuff towards Google, you've got to get to at least 5 Google reviews to see the aggregate star rating. And then before you go after any other review sites, you want to make sure you've got at least 10 reviews on Google because you get a little bit of a rankings bump when you get those 10 reviews. But more than anything else, you want to make sure that you've got more reviews than your competitors do. But don't take that overboard. If your closest competitor has 70 reviews, you don't want to have 650 reviews because then that looks fake and manufactured. Even if you only have a 4, a 4.2 score, the fact that everybody else in town has in the range of 50 to 70 and you've got 500 plus, that could actually hurt you at that point because it starts to make you look fake. And really important, don't fake reviews. Great example of this. I had a dealer that said he was going to start spiffing his sales guys. So for every review that mentioned a sales guy that ended up on Google and stuck on Google, the sales guy would get a $50 bonus. So what they do, they all started faking reviews because it was free money. So the top one there, Chuck Boone says, great place to buy a car, see Chuck. It's actually against terms of service on Google or on any review site to leave a review for the place that you work. So that could actually get their entire page booted off of Google. And then the second one there, this guy Jacob went in to buy a car, had a really bad experience with customer service, went home and stewed about it all weekend, came back in on a Monday and decided to write a bad review, and lo and behold, the most recent review was something that a sales guy had faked that said it was from Jacob Chavez and that it was a great place to buy a car. So now he's saying, Victor is even posting fake posts under my name saying that I like the experience so much. Don't believe it. This was the biggest mistake of my life dealing with these people. You're going to have to get a ton of positive reviews to bury that thing so that nobody ever sees it. You're not going to recover from something like that, so don't fake reviews. Plus, fake reviews are a federal offense. They had a sting last October in New York against both companies that posted fake reviews and companies that were reviewing themselves with fake reviews, and it was to the tune of like $390 gazillion or something.
What?
You can have thousands, it was $390,000 worth of fines were assessed for fake reviews, so you don't want to get caught doing this.
Jeez, I didn't even know it was a federal offense. Not that I would do it. I'm just saying I didn't know it was a federal offense.
It's against FTC regulations. Also, dealers love to see a really awesome review on Google, and they'll copy it, and they'll go put it on their homepage and say, see how awesome we are. The problem is Google wants your reviews that are on your Google listing to be unique. So then when Google comes back and crawls your website and sees that you have a word-for-word copy of the review that's on Google, it's going to remove the review from Google, and you just made yourself lose a review.
Oh.
So super important not to do that. So hopefully that didn't go too fast and blow your mind. Now, for those of you out there that have seen Scanners, you know what happened next in the movie, speaking of exploding brains. And for those of you that haven't seen Scanners, I've got a nifty little animated GIF to show you what happens directly after this.
Jeez. Oh, that's gross. Please turn it off. Thanks,
So
Greg.
anyway, the truth is out there about local SEO. Thanks for listening to my presentation. There is my contact information. You can hit me up on Twitter @GregGifford, or you can email me at ggifford@dealeron.com. And definitely follow me on Twitter if you're a Twitter user. I go to a ton of automotive and even more SEO conferences, and I live tweet all the conferences I go to. So it's a great way to kind of virtually attend those conferences and get a lot of great tips. So it's time to move on to the Q&A.
And I got to tell you, Greg, we have a ton of awesome questions from today's audience. So settle in, everyone, because I want to get to all of them, as many as we can fit in. So Greg, you gear up, get ready. We are going to have an amazing Q&A session with you. So try and make your answers as quick as possible, too, if you can. Also, hey, it's that time. If you missed it at the beginning of the webinar, I announced that our good friends at Hook Logic are sponsoring this week's webinar giveaway. I know you had a lot of notes today, everyone, but I hope you were paying attention so that you could win this great prize from HookLogic. It's a showroom traffic driver, and not only do they identify the highest intent to buy customers from your website and third-party leads, HookLogic also drives over 30% of them into your showroom. That's almost double the national show rate of 17%. Now, to find out more about HookLogic, you can always go check out hooklogic.com. And as I said earlier, the prize today, one of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $250 gift card from HookLogic, like a Visa gift card, okay? So get ready and get to your keyboards, everyone. First person to write in the correct response is going to be winning this awesome prize today. Yes, thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate that. Here we go. Good luck, everyone. Of course, vendors, you know we love you, but please, if you wouldn't mind, please sit this one out. This prize is intended for dealership personnel only. We, of course, thank you in advance, and you're always welcome to come to our webinars. And all right, audience, here we go. And here is your question. How many movie references did Greg make during this webinar presentation? Boom! First person to write in the response was the winner. Let me go scroll up because I did see it. Oh, so nice. David Sharp, you are our winner today. That is correct. 151 was the correct answer. David Sharp, congratulations. If you wouldn't mind, please, David, could you write on in? I need your mailing address and, of course, the name of your dealership. Audience, we give away great prizes every week, so please don't hesitate. Stop on in every Thursday to our awesome DealerOn webinars. You never know what you're going to walk away with. All you have to do is pay attention and have some fast fingers, all right? So, Greg, we're going to get started with the Q&A session really quickly.
Oh, we got to show them this first. When you guys download the deck, if you do want to download it, just to prove that there were 151, I do have a chronological list of all the movies in order of release date.
That is just insane. You took a lot of time putting this slide deck together.
I did.
Thank you so much,
so
Greg. It definitely paid off.
So it's more personal.
David Sharp is, of course, with Elliott Auto Group in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Not too far from you, Greg.
Awesome.
Awesome. So congratulations, David. Of course, thank you all of our audience members for playing along today. And of course, we got to thank our good friends over at HookLogic for their incredible generosity. All right, David, you're going to be hearing from our friends at HookLogic about your prize. Now, let's get started with the questions. All right, you can put it on a few slides down, actually, Greg, that has your contact information.
I will do that.
All right, I'm going to go in order because we have a ton of questions. All right. So your first question comes to you from Casey. Casey says, before I forget, can we see examples of a bad SEO page and a good local SEO page? Greg, do you have one off the top of your head?
I don't have one off the top of my head. I would have to go out. Of course, all the dealers I work with would be examples of great SEO pages, but as far as finding a really bad one, I'd have to go find something. If you'd like to see one, shoot me an email and I will kind of give you a side-by-side comparison, but I'd have to go find something first.
Okay, well, Casey, you know what? We're going to work on that. Maybe, you can always email Greg directly, and let's see if he can come up with a bad example for you. And we'll try and get back with you on that, okay? So your next question, Greg, comes to you from Pete. He says, how about building microsites and directing them back to our main site? Is that shady?
That's not shady, but it's a very outdated tactic that's not going to work anymore. So just creating a microsite isn't going to do anything unless you're going to do SEO on the microsite. So if you wanted to create a microsite, it's got to be unique, relevant content. So, let's say you made a microsite for service. Then you'd need to go have awesome content that's on that microsite that's not on your main site. And then you're going to need to do all the stuff that I just talked about on both your main site and the microsite. So now if you're going to do 5 microsites, you've just given yourself 5 times or 6 times as much work as if you were to just do it on your website and have awesome content on your website. So back in the day, you could just go create a bunch of really crappy microsites that had 1 or 2 pages and have them link back to your site, and cool, all of a sudden you've got links. But Google's smarter than that, and that stuff doesn't work anymore.
Okay, but then why wouldn't I just do it on our main site? Was the answer.
You would just do it on your main site.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
go out and try to put effort into creating microsites. Put all the effort into your main site. Make awesome content and an awesome user experience and have all the answers right there on your main site so that anytime a customer lands on your site, there's no question that they'll very easily be able to find anything that they're looking for and any answer to any question they might have.
Gotcha. Okay, he says, understood. Makes sense. Thanks. Um, and Michael also writes in, thank you, Greg, for that tip. He liked that one. All right. So let's keep moving on. Um, okay, Greg, earlier on in the show, you had said one of the shady tactics was SEO providers who use Google Analytics but then don't give access to a dealership to those Google Analytics. So Michael said, how does a provider deny you access to Google Analytics? Is there a way to do that?
You know, it's not even always a provider. I've had some major issues recently with Ford Direct setting up Google Analytics and only giving read access to the dealers. So the dealers aren't able to go into Google Analytics and set up goals to track conversions on forms or to set up custom reports to check out specific things that they want to check out. And Ford Direct's like, sorry, just can't do it. It's our analytics, not yours. Well, you know what? It's not. It's the website's analytics. The website should own it. But as crazy as it sounds, it happens all the time.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate, but you know, all you can do is fight and hope that you get it. Now, you might have situations, you know, like for example, DealerOn, for all DealerOn's customers, they set up DealerOn Google Analytics, but if the dealer wants Google Analytics to have access to their own analytics, then they can either have their own analytics code that they already had before they came to DealerOn, or if they want to set up another account, then we'll have both Google Analytics accounts on the site. The reason that DealerOn does that is because we have a lot of internal reports that we want to be able to run. And so we need to make sure that we have all those reports in there and that those won't get screwed up by anything someone might do, which is why we have an account that's separate that dealers don't have access to, but we will totally give access to anything else or put another account on there. So it's a different situation. I'm talking more about when you have a provider that says, hey, you've got Google Analytics there and you can see the code that's embedded on the site, but they don't let you see it at all. That's obviously bad news bears.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, next question comes to you from Katie. She says, can you repeat the recommended SEO conferences? You spouted them off really, really fast.
Sure. So depending on what level of information you want to go to, if you've got somebody that's really good at SEO and has been doing it for a while, you could go a little bit more advanced. If it's their first time to hit one of these conferences, you might want to go to something that's more on the basic side so they're not completely overwhelmed. But the two that I would recommend the most would be, there's one series called PubCon, and PubCon typically does one in the spring and then one in the fall in Vegas. And then the other one is a series called SMX, and that SMX is Search Marketing Expo, and that's actually the same company that creates the website Search Engine Land, which is the biggest news website for SEO-related stuff. SMX has several conferences a year. They have SMX West in San Jose every spring. They do SMX Advanced in the beginning of the summer every year in Seattle, and they do SMX East in New York every year. They also have an SMX social media conference in Vegas in November every year, and then they've got several. They've got one in Australia and one in London and one in Milan and all over the place. But definitely you could hit either the West Coast one in the spring or the East Coast one in the fall, or in the summer you could go to Advanced. Now, Advanced is a very high level of information, but if you've been to a conference or two before and you're really up to date, then you'd be okay there.
Gotcha.
PubCon this year is actually the same week as Digital Dealer. So if you're interested in hitting up an awesome SEO conference, you could go hit Digital Dealer, and then Digital Dealer is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and PubCon is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you'd miss the first day and a half of PubCon, but you could just stay an extra day or two because you're already in Vegas, and then go hit the rest of that conference and get some awesome, really in-depth SEO tips.
Wonderful. Katie did have a follow-up question too. She says, my dealerships have a DealerOn website. Yay, Katie. She says, do I still need to get with them on updating the title tags, or has this already been done?
Actually, the default title tags are okay already if you're on DealerOn. So unless you've gone in and manually updated them yourself, then you're okay.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie. If you have a follow-up question, you know we're always here for you. Okay, Cordell wrote in a very interesting question. He says, how do you promote good content on your website to attract quality links that help your SEO?
That's a great question.
It is. Is that a whole nother webinar?
that actually is a whole nother content marketing webinar. To not go into super detail and talk for forever, which I could, whenever you're creating this awesome content, you also need to do the content marketing side of content marketing. So like I mentioned with the shady SEO providers, if all they do is create model pages, model research pages, okay, here's an F-150 page, and that's all they do, sure, it might rank, but you're not going to get any links to it if people don't know about it. So then you've got to go share it on social. So I didn't get into social with this. Social's super important. A lot of dealers think that it sucks, but you've got to use social to get the right signals out there for SEO. So you want to build up your social following and make sure that you've got the right local influencers following you and engaging with you on social. And then when you create these awesome blog posts that are, related to things going on in the local area or things you're doing in the community, you push information out through social about these pages so that then people will notice them and potentially link to them. Now then there's also the route of you could, if you have a really good contact maybe at the local newspaper or something like that, and you put up a really awesome blog post or something about some event going on at the dealership, then if you've built up this relationship, then you can shoot them an email or call them and say, hey, look, you might be interested in this. I don't know. There's also a service called Haro. It's H-A-R-O. It's Help a Reporter Out. It's a website where reporters go list story ideas that they have or assignments that they have where they're looking for an expert to interview. So if you go to this website, you can check out potential articles that will be posted either online or actually in print and go find a story that you may be an expert or someone that you could contribute. And then you can go contact that person and give them the info, and typically that's a really great way to get a link as well. That I could go in, definitely go to Search Engine Land. There is an article in there that I wrote about building local links, and that goes a little bit more in depth and can give you some great ideas.
Thank you so much, Greg. We're really running out of time, so we're going to try and speed this up a little bit. I know I have a ton of questions, great questions from you, audience, so we're going to try and get through as many as we can. Thank you so much, Cordell. Michael says, seriously, one of the best instructors, fabulous speaking skills I've ever experienced on any of your webinars, Eliana. So thank you so much for that, Michael. I do appreciate that. David, actually our winner today, David, says, clearly I am not an SEO expert, so let me ask a stupid question. Are meta description and meta tags different things, or are they the same thing?
Yes, they are different. So meta tags refer to the entire, so tag is an HTML term of the, something when you see those triangle brackets on the outside of something. There are multiple meta tags that can go on a site, and one of them is meta description. So a meta description is a meta tag that says the description is this. So when you say meta tags, you're referring to multiple different bits of information. When you say meta description, you're referring specifically to the description meta tag.
Okay, David, I hope that helps you out. Oh, he says, cool. All right. Your next question, okay. Thomas has the next question, but he is not the only one who had a problem with you stating that call tracking numbers couldn't be 1-800 numbers, that they had to be a local. Oh my gosh, I had so many questions about that. So
everybody always freaks about that.
Yes, it's totally freaking people out. So let's just go to two people, and we'll narrow it down to these two people, these two questions. So Thomas says, if the call tracking number is local but dynamic, is that okay?
Potentially, maybe, but most likely not. The problem comes when Google now interprets JavaScript and sees what you do on your website. So if you've got JavaScript dynamically changing that phone number, Google now sees that you have a different phone number on your website. It also becomes a problem if perhaps someone is writing a blog post or a news story about you. They're going to use the phone number that they see on your site, which might be a dynamic number that comes because they clicked on your pay-per-click ad to get to your site. And now you've got a post out there that has this other phone number. And remember, Google expects that a local business will have the same phone number everywhere that it's listed online. So when you start throwing out a bank of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 phone numbers, now you've got all this messy data, and that's not doing the best you can do. Now, that doesn't mean you can't still rank. It just means it's a lot harder to rank. I have worked with several Audi dealerships, and Audi as a manufacturer forces every dealership to have a bank of 800 numbers that are call tracking numbers. So you can get call tracking numbers that are local numbers, but Audi doesn't care. Audi forces that 800 number. So you have to go above and beyond and do some tricks and run around in a few circles to get things to still work. I was still able to get that guy to rank #1, but it was a heck of a lot harder than if we would just been able to do a local phone number everywhere.
I got you. I got you. All right, Thomas, great question. Let's move on to Carolina. Hi, Carolina. She says, is there a place we can go for reference that will show why the 1-800 number tracking numbers are bad? If I just say local is better for SEO, I know they'll want more information on that. Thanks.
There are, I don't remember if I wrote a post. I keep referring back to Search Engine Land because I write a monthly column on Search Engine Land in the local area of the site. I think I may have written something about this. If I haven't, I promise to do something very quickly. But you can definitely go do a Google search for, 800 number or call tracking and local SEO. There are a ton of posts out there. I'm not the only one that says this. It's very common knowledge in the local SEO circle that 800 numbers are bad. Now, if you're talking strictly the 800 versus local, you can definitely get local tracking numbers from your provider. Like every call tracking provider, or almost everyone, offers you the local area code phone number option instead of an 800 number. There's zero need for 800 numbers anymore. All of your customers are going to come from a close radius to your dealership, and anybody that might be outside of that might need long distance is going to have a cell phone that they can call you for free on anyway. So there's no need for a toll-free number on your website anymore. So that's a completely moot point. And then beyond that, having that bank of numbers is bad. So really the best way to do call tracking is to have a single number that you own. So if you ever switch call tracking providers, you can keep that number so you don't have to go worry and update everything. You have a single number that you own, and that single number is what appears everywhere. And then you get your attribution on call source based off of the transcriptions of those phone calls. So you're still going to get your recordings. A lot of dealers freak out and they say they need call tracking because they want to listen to the calls. There's a difference between call tracking and call recording. So if you're only needing it for the recordings, you don't need to have a bunch of different phone numbers, and you don't need an 800 number. Now, if you do want to track the different sources, use that single phone number, get those attributions off of the transcriptions instead.
And that answers John's question. He says, how would you track phone calls if all you have is the same number everywhere? So thank you so much for that, Greg. Appreciate it. Okay, Carolina, any follow-up questions? Or you, John, please send them on in.
Let me say one final thing. When this comes up when I'm speaking at like a digital dealer, obviously people freak out when I say don't do call tracking because a lot of dealerships do. And so I'll say, okay, cool. Let's do a little exercise. Everybody that does call tracking, raise your hand, and a bunch of hands will go up in the room. And then I'll say, okay, keep your hands up until I tell you to take them down. Now next, if you have not looked at a call tracking report in the last 30 days, put your hand down, and at least half of the hands go down. And of the remaining hands, I say, how many of you have made an actual marketing decision, changing strategy or changing budget based off of your call tracking numbers? And every hand will go down, except for every once in a while there might be one person there. So what it all comes down to is most of the time dealers are doing call tracking because they always have, and they think that they need to have all this crazy data about all these phone calls. But what's really more important? Do you want a crap ton of data about all the calls that you get, or do you want to switch and do it the way that's going to work better with SEO and end up getting more phone calls? Because what you really want is more phone calls. Who cares if you know where all these phone calls are coming from if you're getting more and you're selling more cars?
I can't argue with that logic. All right, Greg, let's go to this next question from Carolina says, by the way, perfect answer. Next question is from David. He says, should the blog be hosted on the site, or does a WordPress blog work?
If you're talking about blog hosted on the site, you might be referring to Dealer.com's blog platform, and it's absolute crap, so you don't want to use that. Even though you could have that on your site, you're much better off using a WordPress blog. Now, there are providers out there that allow you to have a WordPress blog hosted on the same server, so it would be, jimbobsford.com/blog, and then it's just a WordPress blog, so that it's actually on the same root domain. That's the best possible way to do it, but a lot of providers don't allow you to do that. So what we do in those situations when we're working with a dealer that can't have a blog that's on the root domain, then we set up a WordPress blog hosted on GoDaddy or somewhere like that, and then we set it up as a subdomain. So it would be, instead of www.joebob4.com, it would be blog.joebob4.com. That's not as optimal as having it in a subfolder, but it's better than having it on a completely separate URL.
All right. Thank you so much. Great question, David. All right, your next question, it's not really a question. I guess it is. Simon says, can we please have a series of webinars from this excellent presenter? Thank you, Simon. I'm looking forward to it too. All right. Elmer says, Greg, could you please explain what is a 7-pack and a 3-pack? He wasn't the only one who actually asked that. I just didn't get a chance to stop you and ask you.
So the 7-pack and the 3-pack, that's when you go do a search on Google. So like if you type in, used cars in whatever your city name is, you'll see that 7-pack of results. So you'll have 10, or you'll have the pay-per-click at the top. Then you might have 1 or 2 organic results. Then you'll have that kind of separated pack where it's dealership name, phone number, review stars, address, and it'll have the A, B, C, D, E, F, G map pins that correspond to the map that's over in that right column. So that little pack of results where it shows the reviews and the phone number and the address and the map pin, that's what we call a map pack. And typically it's 7 results, so we call it a 7-pack. But after this update last summer, now a lot of times we're only seeing 3 results where we used to see 7, so we'll call that a 3-pack.
Okay. Elmer, if that answers your question, great. If you have a follow-up question, hey, please write on back in. Michael said, he says, gotcha, thanks. Carolina says, what if we aren't showing up in the 3-pack? We are 4th.
That's when you need to start working on checking all the signals that I talked about here. So importantly, more than anything else, check out the local optimization tips where you want to have city and state in title tag, H1, content, meta description, alt text, all those places. Check that first. Check links second. Check citations third. So you want to both check yourself. When you're talking about links and citations, you want to check yourself. You also want to check your competitors to see if they're beating you on links. So it could be that they have more links than you. It could be that they have more citations than you. It could be that they have the same number of citations, but they have different citations than you. So most likely it's one of those 3 things or a combination of those 3 things. If you haven't done a lot of local SEO work before, it might be a little difficult for you to figure that out on your own, but that's why you have someone on staff that you get to be an expert in this, or why you have a provider that can help you with this.
Gotcha. All right, good luck, Carolina. And she says, thank you. Michael has a question. He says, can you have him share that site he just did a few moments ago? I believe that was when you were talking about a blog post that you wrote, and I think you said it was on Bitly, and it was
Search Engine Land?
local-content-something else. Do you remember that?
Yeah, local, it was bit.ly, bit.ly/local-content-ideas.
-ideas. That was it. It was like right before a poll question. I didn't get to write it down.
Sure. Yeah, that jumps you right to my article for local blog content ideas on Search Engine Land. You can also just go to Search Engine Land and click the local tab and scroll down. I think I'm probably 5 or 6 down at this point because I have a once-a-month column. They have several people that do that, but I think my next post comes up on Monday. But any of my posts that you find on there, you can scroll to the bottom and click on my name. My name will be a hyperlink, and that will take you to a list of all the posts that I've written. And almost everything on there is, kind of more in-depth, singular tips on the stuff that I talked about today.
Fabulous. Okay, so again, it's bit.ly/local-content-ideas. All right, let's go to this next question from Sam. Sam says, there's been a lot of talk about external links not being a ranking factor for Google at some point. Any insider information on that?
I know from talks, not to be all like, oh my gosh, I'm awesome, but like I know a couple people that are big Google speakers because I speak at so many conferences, and I know from both things they've said publicly and things that they've said in more private conversations, Google would love to move away from links being such a powerful signal, because still there are things you can do to game the system, and it's very easy to get a couple of good links and jump somebody to #1 even if they maybe don't deserve those links. So Google is definitely working on figuring out how to move past that. It's just that's one of the still the best ways to really tell if a site is worthwhile or not. So they haven't yet figured out a way to pull that out of the algorithm and replace it with something else that's as reliable. And sure, you can still game it, but they've made leaps and bounds over what they were, 3 or 4 years ago as far as being able to game links. There are still some sites out there that shouldn't be there that have a bunch of great links that made them rank when they really have crappy content. And obviously, it's not infallible, but right now they can't really use social signals reliably yet. And again, social signals would be easy to game as well. So I know at some point they're going to be much less important than they are now, but unfortunately, you kind of have to live with the way that it is.
Gotcha. All right. I know we're very, very over time, audience, but the last 10 questions are all so good. I'm just going to keep going. You will be getting a recording, the link to the recording of this. So if you cannot hold on to get to these last 10 questions, it will definitely be on the recording. And I apologize for the late webinar, but you know what? This is great stuff, and I just don't want to stop. All right. Yes, people
Also,
are writing. Keep going.
Shoot me an email. If you have a question that maybe you didn't type in or you want a clarification on something, feel free to shoot me an email. I will answer anything you send over.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg. All right, your next question comes from Michael. He says, what specifically is low authority? I know we talk about high authority links, high authority websites. So how can you tell if a website is low authority?
So specifically using that Moz tool, Open Site Explorer, to check your links, whenever you go to the Open Site Explorer tool and you enter in a domain name and it spits out a list of all the links, one of the metrics at the top of that list is domain authority, and it's ranking that website on a scale of 0 to 100. So the higher that number is, the more authority it has. And it's based on the link profile and the content of the website and all these things. So it's basically kind of a gauge on how likely that site is to do well in Google. So that's where, when I'm saying you want to avoid the low authority sites, a lot of these, cruddy websites will have a very low authority. Most dealerships are going to have mid-20s to mid-30s as far as their domain authority. Something like an Amazon or CNN is going to have, 94, 95, 96.
And Michael said, thank you so much. Got it. Thank you so much. Okay, next question comes to you from Casey. He says, will paying for WhiteSpark and putting in the correct information for your dealership go out and correct all of your inconsistent information?
Okay, so with WhiteSpark, the tool that I talked about that's $20 a month, you don't actually put any information into it. It's giving you a list of all of the sources, whether it's something that you already have that's incorrect or whether it's a potential source you could go get, and then you have to go to the source and put that information in at the source. But WhiteSpark does have a service that you can pay, and I don't remember how much it is because I don't personally use it because I prefer to do everything myself, but it's like $5 a listing that you can say, hey, I want to go be on these 10 listings, and throw them $50 and they'll just go do it for you.
Okay. Casey.
So that's an option if you have somebody internal and you just don't have the manpower to go out and spend 20 or 30 hours correcting some incorrect citations. You could send your list to WhiteSpark and just pay a couple $100 and have them do it for you.
That sounds like a good idea. Casey, good luck with that, man. I wish you the best. Next question comes to you from Brad. He says, what about Google Virtual Tour? How much does it help? Is it worth the time and effort?
The virtual tour is cool. People will click on it and use it, but as far as helping you rank any better, it won't do anything for you. We've done a lot of testing. A lot of people kind of suspected that if you got it, you would rank better. Some of the Google photographers that go out and they're actually affiliated with Google to go out and set these up and do them will tell you, hey, this will help you rank better. There's no proof that it does, but it's definitely cool to have on there. Like I said, all those things that I said would optimize your Google My Business listing. That's just one more step of something cool that you can put on there to keep people engaged. And then you can also go and embed that on your About Us page of your site or on some other page of your site to let people see it actually on your website. So there's value in it from a customer experience perspective, but not really from a ranking perspective.
Gotcha. Great idea, Brad. So it's cool from a user-friendly standpoint, but in actuality of raising your level on your Google ranking, it doesn't help at all.
Right.
Okay, all right. Heather, who is by all accounts a big fan of yours, because you should see that some of the stuff that she wrote to me earlier today.
Thanks, Heather.
Heather says, do you have an example of the postcard to hand out to customers about posting a review?
I do not have one handy, but if you shoot me your email address, I can send you several examples.
Ah, fantastic. Heather, get in touch with the man, all right? Oh, she says she will. Lisa has the next question. Lisa says,
actually, you know what, Heather? If you go to search engine land, I actually wrote a blog post about that whole process, and there's examples on that blog post. That would probably be easier.
That's great too. All right, Heather, good luck. She says, awesome. She's going to do that right now. Lisa says, what about, okay, now we're talking about reviews, okay? What about if the review you post on your website is a JPEG file and not a copy and paste? Can you do that? Can you get away with that?
Definitely. That's the best way to do it. That's very smart.
Lisa, you found the loophole. Bravo. All right, Joshua, she says, yeah. All right, Joshua says, what is this something extra a website provider shouldn't include in a basic website package? Okay, again, this is from Joshua. So is there something extra a website provider isn't including in a basic website package that maybe they should be?
Yeah, all the stuff that I talked about. Everything in this webinar is not going to be something that you will get as part of a basic package. This is all something that, like I said, SEO is butts in seats. It's a manual process. You're going to have to pay an add-on either at your current provider if they do SEO, or find someone else that will do SEO for you. It's an additional cost because it's a manual process. It's not anything that will be included in your software as a service fee.
I got you. Okay, so yeah, Joshua wrote in to clarify. He says, but why is this an extra I have to pay for? Which I believe you just answered, because it's all done by hand. It's not done by software.
Yeah, because when you're going to your automotive website provider, whoever that provider is, it's not feasible for them to do this work for you, because SEO is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. You have to do all of these things every month and continue to do this. Now, if you are going to have a provider that said, hey, here's package A is our basic package and package B is our advanced package, and the advanced package includes SEO, then it's going to be several $1,000s more a month to get that. And maybe some people would take it, maybe some people wouldn't. But when we're talking, and you specifically said with a basic website package, you're paying to use that guy's software and their system to put your inventory in, or you're feeding in from HomeNet and using the system to get your website. You're not paying for SEO.
Okay, Joshua.
So it's software as a service versus a managed service with people.
Gotcha. Joshua, I hope that helps you out. Please don't hesitate to write back in. We are down to our last few questions. So let's get to this one from Jeff. Jeff says, do you have any good web page examples we could look at to get ideas for great content and great SEO?
I have a bunch. Was this Jeff that asked the question?
Yes, Jeff.
Jeff, shoot me an email and I will send you several links, and I will point out along with those links why each one is, what part of it is a good example.
Yeah. He says thanks. Do you want him to also point out like maybe what city he's in, or what kind of car he sells? Would that help?
Yeah, I mean, if he's curious about how anybody that's still listening, if you're curious about how your dealership is doing right now, I can do a quick little mini audit for you. I won't charge for that. Typically, SEO audits are something you got to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for. I'm not going to go that in depth, but I can spend 10 or 15 minutes and dig in on some of the basic things that I talked about here and kind of tell you where your shortfalls might be. And I'm willing to do that for anybody that wants to write in and ask about it.
Holy moly. I got news for you, Greg. We have a lot of people that are still on. So if you guys are the lucky ones to hear that, write down his email address. That is one hell of an offer right there. All right. Thank you so much for the great question, Jeff. Next question comes to you from Brad. He says, oh, no, we already did that one. Great. We have 2 more questions left. David says, can local SEO and traditional SEO work against each other, or any kind of SEO is good?
No. If you're doing local SEO, you're also doing all the things you need to be doing for traditional SEO anyway. So local SEO is like you guys can see me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they can see you.
here's traditional SEO, and then local SEO is like a little, like if we're Venn diagramming it, it's a little kind of offshoot of it, but it still overlaps. And really, I guess it would be inside if we're doing a Venn diagram. So if you're doing local SEO, you're already doing all the things that you'd be doing for traditional SEO. You're just doing extra things above and beyond.
Got it, got it. Okay, so for people who are watching the recording and cannot see his handiwork, because Greg, only the live audience can actually see you on webcam. It's not recorded. So
right.
Yes, do both. You're good. Okay. And your last question comes in from Adam. He says, how do you raise in the fastest way to raise domain page authority? Well, that is the question, isn't it, Adam? He wants to know the fastest way to raise your domain authority or your page authority.
My question to him would be, why do you care so much about your domain authority? Is it very, very low?
Adam, are you there? I don't know. He hasn't written in. He says it's 27.
27, I wouldn't even worry about raising it because most dealerships are going to be in that mid 20 to mid 30 range.
Oh.
If you're at a 27 of domain authority, like that, keep in mind that's just a metric that Moz has to kind of help you get a handle on, the value of different websites. That is not a metric that if, oh my gosh, if he takes it from a 27 to a 30, that's going to jump him up to number 1. That's not how that metric is used. It's more of a guide of a quick reference between one site and another, the overall value of that site. So if you're at a 27, like I wouldn't even care about that. I would look at how's your content look? Are you locally optimized? How do your links look? And how do your citations look? I wouldn't even worry about that domain authority.
Well, there you go, Adam. And with that, Greg Gifford, I am going to say it for the audience. You blew my mind, just like that awful GIF that you showed at the end of your presentation. That was just...
I can go back to it. We can show it.
No. I'm good. I think seeing it twice in 1 week is enough. That was just an astounding presentation. I'm just going to put you on the spot right now. Greg Gifford, when's the next time you and I can webinar together? I want you to check your schedule and get back to me as soon as possible, okay?
I will.
Awesome. Please get in touch with Greg Gifford for any and all of your search and social questions. He is our new Director of Search and Social at DealerOn. And boy, oh boy, what a phenomenal introduction he had today to all of you. If you didn't know Greg Gifford before today, well, I'm certain that he's not going to leave your memory anytime soon. Don't hesitate to get in hold of him. As you can see, he is definitely one of the coolest guys around. Hopefully, you'll get to meet him in person at one of our amazing seminars or something like that. And we certainly will be having him back on a DealerOn webinar as soon as we can. Of course, I want to remind the audience a link to download a copy of this webinar recording is going to be emailed to you later today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. Just go to DealerOn.com/webinars to view our upcoming webinar schedule or access any of our past webinars too. And at the conclusion of this webinar in just a moment, you're going to receive a short survey. Dude, you guys got to fill that out. I got to know what you thought about Greg's presentation today because I thought it was incredible. So I'm looking forward to seeing your feedback. I know Greg is too. Today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. And yeah, invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar, how your dealership can create a 25% lift in sales. I know it sounds too good to be true, right? Here's the question for you. Could your dealership be more profitable simply by changing your sales floor process? Guess what? The research has been done by one of the most trusted sources in the automotive industry, and they are ready to reveal the surprising results. In this thrilling 1-hour webinar, too, auto retailing experts Clint Burns and Brian Pash will share key findings from PCG's eye-opening research report, Transforming Automotive Retail Sales Process Management. They're going to discuss the comprehensive research employed in the study and the superior sales floor strategies that resulted in month after month after month increases in sales, in addition to sharing key insights from the report. Burns and Pash will give the audience best practices for moving from an open sales floor to a managed retail process, strategies on how dealerships increased showroom visits by a staggering 85 to 100%, ideas for sales teams to find more time to work CRM tasks and complete follow-up, and formulas to take back to your dealership to see how well your current process is actually working. Brian Pash boldly states that dealerships with open sales floors will gain insight from this webinar on how to create new opportunities for their team and their businesses and provide an all-around better experience for their customers. So if you're ready to learn how your dealership can create a 25% lift in sales, then this is the webinar you simply can't afford to miss. Don't forget, DealerOn's weekly webinars are held Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, or 9 a.m. Pacific. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, contact me directly. Again, my name is Eliana Raggio. I love hearing from you, so track me down online, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, any of the automotive social networks. You can find me all over the web or email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on another webinar in DealerOn's continuing education series. Take care.